COPWATCH, policing the police every single day.
Officer-involved shooting. First, this exclusive video shows the naked man minutes before an officer shot and killed him. Channel 2's Darren Moore is live in DeKalb County at the apartment complex where it happened. And Darren, we now know the man's name.
And Fred, late last night, DeKalb County Police identified the man as 27-year-old Anthony Hill. The shooting happened in this apartment complex called The Heights at Chamblee. Now, witnesses described some strange and bizarre moments before officers arrived here, but this is cell phone video exclusive to Channel 2 Action News. We blurred out part of the video of a man walking around naked at an apartment complex here on Chamblee Tucker Road. Residents called DeKalb County Police Monday afternoon when they saw 27-year-old Anthony Hill hanging from a balcony and crawling on the ground with no clothes on. Well, here's what DeKalb's public safety director said happened when officers showed up.
It observed a nude male out in the parking lot. When the male saw the officer, he charged, running at the officer. The officer called him to stop while stepping backwards, drew his weapon, and fired 2 shots.
Hill died on the scene. Police said he did not have a weapon, and the officer who fired the fatal shots is a 7-year veteran of the force. And because of the circumstances surrounding the shooting, well, DeKalb police said they will step aside, and they brought in the GBI to handle this investigation. And of course, if we learn of any new details on this case, we'll bring it to you on Channel 2 Action News at 4.
Watch, cop denied immunity for killing unarmed naked veteran suffering from PTSD. A judge has denied an officer's request for immunity, noting that he was not acting in self-defense when he shot and killed an unarmed, naked veteran. By Matt Agarist, August 18, 2018. Decatur, Georgia, instead of reaching for his pepper spray or his taser, a DeKalb County police officer drew his gun and killed an unarmed veteran suffering from bipolar and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Charged with felony murder and several other charges in 2016, the officer claims the unarmed veteran was aggressively charging towards him even though witnesses dispute his official version of events. Now, a judge has ruled that the former cop is not entitled to immunity based on the self-defense claim. Lawyers for Robert Olson had argued he had the right to act in self-defense and that the charges against him should be dropped. As Fox 5 reports, DeKalb County Superior Court Judge J.P. Bully wrote in an order Tuesday that Olson didn't show he had reason to believe deadly force was needed to prevent death or serious injury to himself or someone else. The judge cited concerns about Olson's credibility and conflicting testimony. Any belief by defendant that Hill was about to kill him and that deadly force was necessary to prevent the killing was not reasonable, the judge wrote. On March 9, 2015, residents called 911 to report a naked man crawling on the ground and acting deranged in the parking lot of their apartment complex. As an Air Force veteran who had been deployed to Afghanistan, Anthony Hill had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD after returning from combat in 2012. Experiencing side effects from his medication, including a locked jaw and swollen tongue, Hill had stopped taking his prescription drugs 10 days before his death while waiting for a follow-up appointment at the VA to switch his medications. Responding to the scene, DeKalb County Police Officer Robert Olson shot Hill to death because he claimed the unarmed veteran was charging towards him. Although he was reportedly armed with a taser and pepper spray, Olson immediately drew his firearm and gunned down Hill even though witnesses assert the naked veteran had his hands up when the officer killed him. According to law enforcement sources who wish to remain unidentified, cops are often trained to treat naked suspects as drug addicts high on PCP or bath salts. Although Olson received training on how to handle people suffering from mental illness, the officer reportedly described the department as having failed to train him and the other officers in the department in identifying and deciphering nonviolent or non-aggressive psychological episodes versus the threat of a potentially violent encounter with a citizen high on PCP. Filing a wrongful death lawsuit, Hill's family accused Olson of having a long and extensive history of aggressive conduct and propensity toward anger when dealing with members of the public. Previously, DeKalb County District Attorney Robert James Jr. asked a grand jury to charge Olson with felony murder, aggravated assault, violating his oath of office, and making a false statement. The charges still stand, but the court has yet to set a date for trial. Although over 170 fatal police shootings have been recorded in Georgia since 2010, only one officer has been charged with the killing of a civilian. That charge was later dismissed. Despite the fact that Georgia state law allows police officers to address the panel without any threat of cross-examination or a rebuttal by prosecutors, the grand jury chose to indict Olson because the details of the case were so horrific. His charges include 2 counts of felony murder, 1 count of aggravated assault, 1 count of making a false statement, and 2 counts of violation of oath by a public officer. Unable to differentiate between aggressive suspects on PCP and nonviolent mentally ill patients off their medication, cops have repeatedly taken the lives of innocent people suffering from mental disorders. Instead of giving them the attention and treatment that they deserve, we as a society have neglected the mentally ill and allowed the government to increasingly close down mental health facilities. After decades of denying treatment and shelter to patients suffering from extreme psychological disorders, they've been thrown onto the streets and into the hands of the trigger-happy cops. And we can no longer act like we aren't responsible for what inevitably happens next.
Well, it was day 2 of an immunity hearing for a former DeKalb County police officer. He's accused of murdering an Air Force veteran who was naked and unarmed. Prosecutors have charged Robert Olson with murder for shooting and killing Anthony Hill. Olson claims that he acted in self-defense and is requesting immunity. Now, Fox 5's Portia Bruner has been in the courtroom all day long and joins us now live with an update. Portia?
Wilson, I can tell you, defense attorneys say the fact that Anthony Hill was unarmed and naked didn't make him any less threatening to the former DeKalb police officer. But prosecutors say this was much more than a violation of DeKalb policy. They say it was murder.
He pulled out a weapon to stop Hill. He did not pull out his weapon to kill him.
Defense attorney Don Samuel spent the last 2 days making a case of self-defense for DeKalb police officer Robert Olson. The defense wants Judge J.P. Boulay to dismiss the murder and other felony charges against Olson, insisting the officer feared for his life when he shot and killed the Air Force veteran Anthony Hill.
What Olson does is he says, stop! Okay, that's what you would expect an officer to do. He doesn't shoot. He's not chasing Hill. Doesn't shoot him in the back.
In March 2015, Hill was naked and unarmed when Olson responded to a 911 call about a man behaving erratically in the parking lot of this apartment complex near Chamblee. Prosecutors say the veteran suffered from bipolar disorder and PTSD. Loved ones say he had a bad reaction to his meds. And prosecutors say Olson shot Hill within a matter of seconds of arriving on the scene and failed to assess the situation before using deadly force.
Do you have options now of what you want to do if I'm coming at you from here?
Yes.
Okay. Could you use your OC spray, get it ready and mace my face?
Yes.
Could you bash me with your aspeton?
Yes.
And we can belittle Officer Olson and say you had all these other avenues, but he did what he thought he had to do for self-preservation at that point, and it was reasonable.
I mean, there's video that totally contradicts what he's saying. He's saying that Anthony beat him up. He's saying his hands are here, and the eyewitnesses are saying Anthony's hands were back here.
Now, the family of Anthony Hill came here from South Carolina expecting that this trial was going to begin this week, but we learned today that it's probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks before Judge J.P. Boulay makes a final decision on whether this case should in fact move forward. Reporting live at the DeKalb County Courthouse, Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News.
Police use who may want to retaliate against him physically.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use. And also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, you know, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon, Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.